All right, I've done some videos here on different ways that the typical pre-trib, premillennial, dispensational, end times thought process doesn't make sense. And what I'm doing here is I'm doing this from a logical perspective. So there's plenty of things I could say about the end times hobbyists and how they are biblically inaccurate, biblically illiterate. They twist the Bible and so forth. They hype the news, whatever, and things don't come to pass like they say. Those are all things that are also wrong about this. But here's one that's just it's just logically incorrect. You can't say two opposing things at the same time. You can't say that it's nighttime and daytime at the same time. Um, and so what cognitive dissonance is that's the tendency of people, and I this happens to me as well very often, where you actually hold two or more opposing thoughts in your head as truth at the same time. A common one I've heard as an example is people love animals. They love how cute they are. They go to the zoo and look at how cute that animal is, or that deer, or that little bunny, or whatever. And then they go home and they have a steak dinner. That we obviously slaughtered this animal and made it into our food, and we eat it. And it's like, well, how can you live with two opposing ideas and belief systems in your head at the same time? Well, it's cognitive dissonance. You disassociate those two opposing thoughts in your mind, and that's how you get by. Okay, so what the end times hobbyist has done is he's created a framework that he works within, or she, that includes a lot of these dissociative ideas. This particular set of things is called dates that I'm going to do now. I'm going to start with this one. They're constantly saying we can be sure the rapture is any second now. Any second now it's going to happen. I see Tim Henderson. He's got video after video of rapture any second. And at the same time, they'll say things like, but we see through glass darkly. Barry Scarborough does that. Hey, I know we're in the end. It's the end times. We can know we're here. We know it. We all know it. We're here. We know it. And then 10 seconds later, he says, but we're not perfect. We see through a glass darkly. So Tim or Barry, just say one or the other, okay? Don't try to make both of those things true. Don't say sure things like we are or we know if you're not sure and you don't know. Just don't say the two things. Say one or the other, right? I challenge somebody like Barry to come and say to me, here's why I'm justified in doing this. Similarly, he'll say things like, we can know when the rapture will occur. At the same time, somebody like Robert Breaker will say, we don't know when the rapture will occur, but we can know when the rapture will occur. And I swear to you, he does this. So let me pull this up here. Here he is doing that very thing.
People ask me all the time, Brother Breaker, when do you think that Jesus is coming back? And you know what I tell them? I don't know. So let me say that here from the get-go. I have no idea when Jesus Christ is coming back.
No idea.
I have my guess. And a lot of people say, well, Brother Breaker, and I'm getting email after email after email. Brother Breaker, what are you thinking? What's your guess? And I said, well, you really want to know? I said, I don't even want to tell you. Because people today, they will take your guess and they'll say, he set a date. He's a date setter. He's a date setter. I have never in my life set the date of the rapture. I have never said on such and such a day the rapture will take place on such and such a date.
Well, you just said you guess when it's going to happen. Guessing when something happens is setting a date. I don't care if the date is a 24-hour period or not. It could be a rough, within a year, within 3 months. I mean, when, the word when, Robert, means time. That's what it means.
Now, my detractors, my enemies, if you will say Robert Breaker's a date setter. And I always laugh because that's so funny. Go back to any of my videos and show me one where I said,
really? How about the two you made for 2017 and 2015? Do you know what 2015 is? Do you know what 2017 is, Robert? It's a date. That's in our calendar. This guy's a liar, just like the rest of them, but I'll just let him continue on.
Such and such a day, the rapture will take place. I've never said that. What I have
said in such and such a year, it'll take place.
done is I've said, well, there's a lot of people in the body of Christ that just can't wait for Jesus to come back.
No,
and
that's not
so
what you
some
said.
people are thinking, well, couldn't it be this day? And others are thinking, well, what about this day? And they're looking at the Bible, and they're looking at the world, and they're looking at what's taking place, and they're saying, wow, could it be this?
What about this date? That's what a date setting thing is. It's a date. You just said date twice.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't believe that there's
Yes, there
anything
is.
wrong with looking at the Bible and trying to determine how close are we to the coming of Jesus Christ.
Yes, there is. There's a lot wrong with it. First of all, it's wrong to get on YouTube as a pastor and tell everybody what you think. It's wrong. Period. It's deceptive. It's deceptive. It creates false hope in Christians and false. It's a false warning to the world. It's crying wolf. So yes, there's a hell of a lot wrong with it, Robert.
So that's what I do from time to time. I read the Bible and I try to find, well, when is it going to be?
No, you don't. You don't read the Bible. You watch the news.
You believe the Bible teaches when the rapture will be? I think it's in there somewhere. I believe it's there. I don't think I've found it so far.
Wait a minute. You just said, I don't know. We can know. We can't know. It's in there somewhere.
I don't think anybody else has. And a lot of people are asking me, well, what do you think, Brother Breaker? And I thought, I'd rather not say. You know, for a little while there, I was kind of scared of, well, if I came out and told you what my thought was on the thing, well, then people would attack Robert Breaker and say he's setting a date. And then I realized, you know, the fear of man brings a snare. What am I?
Then he says this is really funny.
So I'm not going to be prophesying today. I'm not going to today say the rapture will be on such and such a day and such a year. I don't know. But I do know that the Bible is given for our learning, for our understanding. And that in the Bible, I do believe that God gives us a lot of clues. A lot of clues.
So he does
I was
tell
thinking
us.
the other day, even if I did figure it out, and I knew exactly 100% what day the rapture would be, I thought to myself, you know, I probably wouldn't tell anybody. Why? Why wouldn't you tell anybody? If you knew when the rapture would be, why wouldn't you tell anybody? Because I don't want to be that guy. Can you imagine if you got on YouTube and you said, the rapture will be on such and such a day, and it took place on that exact day?
Can you
Why,
imagine?
for the next 7 years, the whole world would know your name and be like, yeah, that's that guy that said that was going to happen, and it did. Well, then it'd be all about you, wouldn't
Wouldn't it be
I
awesome?
don't want to be that guy. I want it to be all about Jesus. I want.
That is the most hysterical thing I've ever heard this guy say. And that says a lot. So do you see how he flip-flops back and forth, back and forth? We know, we can know, we don't know, I don't know, we can know. If I did know, I wouldn't tell you. It's just nonstop crap. Again, the rapture can happen any date and any time, except certain months are high watch times. So again, you guys, these two things cannot be true at the same time. Do you understand that? They cannot both be true. You cannot say something is certain and then later on say that you're not sure of it. One of those things is not true. You can't say, well, it could happen whenever. That is an absolute truth of imminency. It can happen anytime. But there are certain times when it could happen more likely than others. Those two things are opposing. I literally think some of these people don't realize that those two things are in opposition to each other. Jeez. Here's a very common one, and I really, really hate this one. Grinds my gears more than anything. People like Jeff Grider and others will claim we're now in the global, because the church is the whole world. Okay, there are people in the church throughout the world, and these people claim that the church is in the lukewarm Laodicean age right now, as we speak. And I always challenge them with. And what I challenge them with is, you know what? There are quite a number of Christians in the Middle East and China and other places, Africa still, millions upon millions, tens of millions, that are being persecuted every day for their faith. And they're being persecuted for their faith because their faith is on display. And I don't think they would appreciate being called lukewarm. You know? I mean, a lot of people look around this country and say, because of what I see in my country, that applies to the entire world. And that's just silly. And here's Jan Markell, someone else who talks about how lukewarm the whole church is. And then she goes and posts this article, which is really interesting because it's cognitive dissonance for Jan to say that we are living in Laodicean times and then say this.
Be Christians and Jews are on the run. Again, these are the top 10, I believe, stories of the last year or so that made headlines that have biblical and prophetic significance. Christians and Jews on the run, and Christians are running for their lives, and Jews are running to Israel for safety.
You see that says more than 245 million Christians are currently suffering from persecution? If they're Laodicean and lukewarm, no one would persecute them, no one would know they're Christians, and no one would care. because they're lukewarm. And Jan just said that the fact that they're being persecuted is an end times prophecy. Jan, how can it be the end times because we're in the lukewarm age, and it be the end times because Christians are being persecuted? If we were in a lukewarm Christian church age, no one would be persecuted. It certainly wouldn't make the news. This whole thing has got to stop. It's based on an idea that Revelation 2 and 3 are actually talking about the church age, the last 2,000 years of the church. And that's bogus. That's just made up. We're told that we as Christians need to always be ready to be raptured, not caught off guard. And I'm like, what happens if we're not ready? What does being ready mean? Looking at the news? They never answer that question, because I'm like, if I'm a Christian, I'm getting raptured suddenly without warning, even if I don't believe in it. I'm told by most of these people, not all of them, but most of them say, I'll just take your apology on the way up. So how are we supposed to be ready, you guys, if we're going to all be raptured without warning? And what happens if we're not ready? We're not looking for the Antichrist. We're looking for Jesus Christ. You hear this mantra by the pre-tribbers all the time. Well, you know what, guys? Their websites and their YouTube channels and all their blogs and everything, they're filled to the brim and overflowing with signs of the rise of the Antichrist. So, yes, they are looking for Antichrist. Just in these few categories that I thought of off the top of my head. Any story you see about the New World Order and the rise of the one world government, that's Antichrist. That's his government. That covers a lot of territory. One world religion, one world economy, both of those, Antichrist. The cashless society, we're getting a lot of that right now through the pandemic. Mark of the Beast technology, we're getting a lot of that right now. Tons and tons of articles. Anything about the leftist agenda is just, the Antichrist's, people that he's grouping together now around himself through Satan, blah, blah, blah. All the wars and endless stuff in the Middle East against Israel, that's all about the Antichrist going to war against Israel. So, just to prove what I'm saying here, here's Jan Markell's channel, right? So just look at the titles of her daggone videos. Perilous times will come. Okay, the New World Order cries out for a savior. Pope Francis, an apocalyptic player. They think Pope Francis is the false prophet. These are both Antichrist stuff. The East seducing the church. Let's see. Waiting in the wings. That's all about the Antichrist right there. Proximity 2020. All this stuff about the ID, the 2020 ID. All this stuff. So, here's Jeff Greider's website. Almost everything he writes about is Antichrist. And it always has been. Someone tried to tell me, well, now he is because, you see the rise of Bill Gates and everything. But, just about everything on his website, everything is about Antichrist. This isn't about Jesus Christ. By the way, you rarely see any content on these channels and on these blogs that's really about Jesus. It's rarely about Jesus himself, the man, the Son of God, Jesus, what he did. There's 1% of their content is about that. The rest of it is about Antichrist, about how terrible the world is, but we can't do nothing about it because this is the way God said it would go. And hold on, Christian, you'll soon be raptured into paradise. That's all they talk about. That's all they talk about. And they talk about themselves. So anyway, for your review and, give me any feedback you have on this too. Thanks.